And I would get in the bathtub and I would sit and I would cry and cry and cry and cry and cry some more. And then when I thought I couldn't cry again, I would cry some more. Good afternoon, great people. Great to see you all here again. I'm going to be doing part 4 of my Reinventing Yourself series. And in this video, I want to talk about navigating trials. And I do pray that this is able to touch someone and inspire someone and actually help someone. If not everyone, if I can help just one person, I'm grateful for that. Remember, we're having an attitude of gratitude. So I'm going to start with a personal story of mine, and I'm going to try not to get too far into details, just for the protection of privacy of myself and the other person involved. 2 years ago, I went through a separation, and it forced me to pack up and move and start all over. And it was really devastating. It really crushed me. I was in a really dark space mentally. Like, I tried to navigate through it, but at the end of the day, I was really just losing my mind. Didn't know whether I was coming or going. It was almost like I was literally like going in and out of reality. Almost like, how like your electronic devices sometimes glitch. That's how my brain was feeling, like it was glitching a lot. I would put something down and immediately forget where I just put it, or I would immediately lose a thought. I was running late to work all the time. My mind just wasn't there. And so, as bad as I wanted to just kind of push through it, it was like God told me to sit still and deal with it. Deal with the problem, face the reality, and try to find the lesson in what was happening. Because initially, I just didn't understand, but every night I would take a bath, and I'm going to get into why I would take specifically a bath. And I would get in the bathtub and I would sit and I would cry and cry and cry and cry and cry some more. And then when I thought I couldn't cry again, I would cry some more, And I would do that every night until, like, I did it so much, I literally started to make myself cry about things that I never allowed myself to cry about, that weren't even related to the divorce. And the more I cried, the faster I actually got through the problem. The faster I was able to see the light. Whereas at first, when the news was first broken to me, I just couldn't. All I saw was darkness. I couldn't see no kind of light. I couldn't see my left or my right, the front or the back. I just couldn't see. I couldn't see straight. And the more I cried this out, the more I was able to actually begin to see the light. And the faster I was able to begin to see it. Whereas normally, I would cry a few tears and be like, okay, I'm good. I'm going to burst this off. I'm good. Bounce back. I'm resilient, right? But in that moment, I said, no, T. You are resilient, but right now you're very vulnerable. And you need to address this. And God was navigating me through all of that. Like, nights when I just thought I would not come out of this. I thought the rest of my life was just doomed. Like, I was just going to be this sad, lonely person the rest of my life. God was navigating me through that, and it hurt. It hurt so bad. My heart was so broken. And the more I cried that out, the better I felt. Because what I was doing was, essentially, I was discharging the negative energy that was associated with what was happening. And that was associated with the other person. And the reason I chose to take baths is, it was almost like symbolically, when I would cry, it's like I was letting the emotions out into the water. And so when I let the water out, it was like I was letting the emotions out with the water. If that makes any sense. I pray that makes sense. But it helped me, and I know it's more just like symbolism, but it really helped me because it helped me to actually visualize my emotions and that negative energy leaving. And so that was the reason I chose to take baths. I made myself sit in that water, in that emotional water, and then I let it out. And so that just really, really helped me. And I would cry and cry and cry until one day I got in the bath and I literally just didn't feel the need to cry anymore. Not because I was numb or I was suppressing it or I was like, oh, I'm good, I'm good. I just was at peace. I was finally at peace with it. I was like, okay, I'm going through divorce, life goes on. And I was literally at peace. And that was such a pivotal moment for me, because at that moment I was able to shift my focus from that traumatizing divorce to my personal health. Like I wanted to, start shedding some weight, and I was able to do that. And I just felt so happy for myself. And someone asked me, how did you lose the weight so fast? And I said, honestly, I had to, before I could even start the weight loss journey, I had to tackle some inner demons. I had to tackle some trauma first. And she was like that. She's like, I feel that. Like, before you can even focus on your outer self, you gotta focus on that inner self, because the inner self is gonna be what reflects outward. And so, I thought, that once I went to actually sign the divorce papers, that I was just gonna feel that pain again, but I didn't. I signed it and I was like, okay, it's done. And again, it wasn't like I'm good, I don't need, it wasn't none of that. It was just, it is what it is. It was a peace that I felt. Like signing the paperwork, I just felt at peace. And then I thought, okay, well, T, you still got some stuff at the house. You got to go get those last few things. You're going to be okay. That I was uncertain about. But when I went to get my remaining things, I was fine then. I was completely at peace then, like completely at peace. So much so that I've not cried one single tear about it since then. I've not even felt the need to. I've not even felt depressed about it. I've not even had a sad thought about it. I have not even had any regretful thoughts. I haven't even had any, oh, I wish we were still married kind of thoughts. I haven't had any of that. What I've had was just more clarity of mind and knowing that, hey, relationships sometimes just don't work. And it doesn't mean that the two people involved are bad people. You're just not compatible with one another. And that's how I feel about him. I don't hate him. I don't even dislike him. I have a spot in my heart for him, and I still care about him. No, I'm not in love with him, but I still care about him. We're cordial. We co-parent. I mean, sometimes we may be mad at one another, but it's short-lived. We're not like having shouting matches and cussing and fussing and none of that kind of stuff. But that was what I wanted from the situation. I didn't want all of that extra drama. I didn't want the shouting and the blaming and the cussing and fussing. I didn't want any of that. I wanted there to be a peace, and that's exactly what I got, because I made myself sit and deal with that and face that head on. And so when it came time to co-parent with him, I was in a very good heart space and a very great head space, and my spiritual life was strengthening. So I didn't see hate when I saw him. I didn't see hate. I just saw a man who is, now my ex-husband and the father of my children. So that was how I navigated that. I sat there and I faced it head on. And when you're dealing with trials in life, that's what you have to do. You can't run from it. And I'm not talking about cry a few tears and then be like, okay, I'm good, I'm gonna bounce back, I'm resilient. No, if you're not good, then sit there and be not good. It's okay. It's okay to be not good. Be good with not being good, and be good with not being good until you're back at being good again. If that makes any sense. Sit there and feel that out. And it does suck. It takes a lot of mental strength, a lot of heart strength, and a lot of relying on God. But I promise you, if you face that head on, you won't have to face it later on down the road, and it won't manifest in other ways. You won't be bitter toward other people. You won't be taking it out on your children. You won't be kicking your dog. You won't be, acting a crazy fool at work and cussing everybody out at work. Deal with the problem now to avoid problems in the future. Okay? So that's how you can navigate those trials. It does hurt. I'm not going to sit up here and say like it doesn't. It does. But it hurts less. I'm telling you, it hurts less if you deal with it now than if you deal with it later. Because when you decide to put it off and deal with it later, what you're going to do is make the problem bigger, and you're going to create other problems that are going to stem from that same problem. So deal with it now to avoid dealing with it later, and you can push through your life. You can navigate. You can, if you need help, you're just that low and you need help, get you some therapy. Read some self-help books. I like to do what they call Dianetic auditing for those who know anything about Scientology. No, I'm not part of the Church of Scientology, but I must admit some of their techniques and things really do help. They've really helped me. So, and I've had therapy. I've had a professional therapist where I was on the phone because it was during pandemic, so we were doing the no contact visits, but I was on the phone, at work, on the phone doing a therapy session because that was the only time that I was available to talk. But I pushed through that, and I didn't just push through it painfully, so to speak, like, I'm just dragging this weight. No, I pushed through it mindfully. Yes, with some pain, but I did it mindfully and intentionally because I knew that the end result was what I was going to want it to be, which was a mind of peace, and not taking out my anger and frustration on other people and letting it manifest through other things in life because I chose to avoid dealing with it at the time. And that's the path that I'm on. I'm not doing this avoidance thing anymore. When I face a challenge, I'm going to deal with the challenge. I'm going to take whatever steps I need to navigate it, and I'm going to get through it instead of running from it. And you can do the same thing. Remember, we all go through a lot of things, and I hate to compare, because I'm not someone who likes to compare trauma. Oh, my trauma's worse than yours. I'm like, listen, trauma is trauma, and different things affect people differently. So you can't sit up there and say my trauma is worse than yours. Okay, if your cat died and then someone else's mom died, I mean, yes, on the surface level, it seems like those two don't compare. Oh, a cat versus a parent, but you don't know what that cat meant to that person. They may be feeling the same kind of pain, even though the situation doesn't look like it would compare. The feelings might equate to what you might be feeling dealing with the loss of your mom. If you all understand what I'm saying, never ever compare your trauma to anyone else, and don't allow anyone else to compare their trauma to yours, and try to diminish what you're feeling. If what you're feeling is what you're feeling, then let it be what you're feeling, and navigate that, Only you are going to know what works for you to navigate through it. But I do encourage that you navigate it in a healthy way. Don't go resorting to crazy measures. Navigate it in a healthy way. A lot of people do journaling. And journaling works great for a lot of people. I've tried it before, and it's honestly, I don't have anything against it. I don't never stick to it. So I found that when I deal with trauma, the best way for me to discharge that energy is to get on the phone and talk. Like, I'm on the phone talking with people I know and trust and love when I need to get stuff off my chest. That's just the best way that works for me. But if journaling works for you, then do some journaling. I do like gratitude journaling. I love writing what I'm grateful for, but when I got some heavy stuff on my chest, I'm talking to a person. That's just me personally. That's what works best for me. And I'm praying. I'm on my prayer rug, letting it out on the rug. But if journaling works for you, do your journaling, do your meditating, do your yoga, whatever works for you. Granted that it's a healthy measure to release that negative energy. And this is something you can do with hard trials as well as the lighter trials. But what I'm simply saying is, at the end of the day, face that challenge. It's not going to feel great. It's not even going to feel good. It's not even going to feel slightly nice, but face it, because trust me, in the end, you're going to be glad that you did. The end reward is so much greater than what you would get if you suppress what you're dealing with, or avoid the reality of what you're dealing with. So I hope that this encourages someone. Stay prayed up, stay blessed. Know that God is the center of your life, and God is the foundation of your life. And just remember just to be grateful, Just be grateful. And feel free to comment with whatever works for you, whatever helps you navigate those trials in life. You can also make suggestions. I'm always open to suggestions. And, if you want to vent or share your story, you're also more than welcome to do that. I try to be a humble heart. No, I'm not perfect, but I'm perfectly imperfect. So I always used to say that, imperfect people are actually perfect people. So, that's pretty much all I have to say about this. When I do these videos, I do just really kind of speak from the heart. So sorry if it's not like all the way pristine. Honestly, I'm not really hung up on how pristine it is. I just want to make sure the message gets out there and gets heard and gets understood. So I thank you all for listening. And again, I just pray that this can really help someone, touch someone, because it really helped me a lot. And so with that being said, I'm going to bid you guys peace.